Hello, people. This is Brian Courtney with Short Bus Debate Club. Thank you again for listening. I've got Darren Jolly here with me.
Hello, governors.
Did you say governess or governors?
I said governess. Hello, governess.
Because a governess is some lady that watches your kids, dude. Whatever. You do a shitty accent.
Fuck yourself, asshole.
So today we are going to talk about the sin tax, and this kind of ties into drug policy. It kind of ties into the state watching our kids and watching out for us. But really, it talks about the state watching out for themselves. So I hate quoting Wikipedia, but they're not far off. So a sin tax is an excise tax specifically levied on certain goods deemed harmful to society and individuals, such as alcohol, tobacco, drugs, candy, soft drinks, fast foods, coffee, sugar, gambling, and pornography. I think they're missing gas there because most of what we pay for gas is a sin tax. But the sin tax is horrible. I mean, they tax a lot of municipalities tax soda at high rates. Washington D.C. is proposing a sin tax on soda of 1.5 cents per ounce. So, I mean, if I do the math real quick on that, that means that 48 cents of a 32 ounce Big Gulp is going to be taxed. That's fucking stupid. That's outrageous. I can't believe it. But they tax those nicotine rags that I was talking about in the previous episode, those little nicotine pouches that come in every flavor. They tax the hell out of those. And for the most part, these sin taxes come from the state and federal level, at least on like gas, cigarettes. But now these counties and cities are imposing a further tax on said items. Which means, like, I know there's a county in Colorado here where a pack of cigarettes costs over $14. That's because they tacked on to the federal and state tax and decided that they wanted to make some money themselves. I'm not sure. I mean, to me, I think that these are all of the fun things in life. And if we just quit doing them, then what would the state, federal, and now local governments do if we just decided we were not going to commit sin anymore? I mean, what do you think, Darren?
I don't think I even realized that this was like a designation until you started talking to me about it earlier. Like, I look at it, a sin tax. I mean, what kind of that, like the stigmatism that you're like, sort of like the stigma that you're putting on someone because of what they're. Whatever, you can make arguments about this and that with regards to whether or not it's good for you, whether or not it's healthy for you or not. What the level of obnoxiousness of even like putting it in boy, I mean, it just really goes to show how much that, that, I mean, what's the clause, the beginning, the first amendment, what do they call that,
the Bill of Rights?
No, well, the first part of it, the establishment clause, right? And obviously, like, identifying a sin tax is not the same thing as creating a religion that's tied to your governmental existence.
Well, to be clear, I don't think the politicians are calling it a sin tax. I think that somebody outside, like some news writer somewhere, called it a sin tax. I know I called it a sin tax just because it started off with fuel and cigarettes, and then they started taxing fatty foods, or taxing them in a different way and not considering them food anymore. So I just called it a sin tax. But apparently, lots of people have jumped on the bandwagon in the past few years because there are lots of articles where sin tax is in the headline.
Well, so it seems like almost like, and of course, like I guess you'd have to look at from where the tax, when it gets proposed until it gets implemented, you'd have to see how. But it almost seems like the suggestion of why they justify doing this in the first place is because these are harmful activities and they have other social costs or something like that further down the line. Like.
Well, like smoking, right? So the sin tax and all of that money that they used on that fucking bullshit lawsuit where they sued the cigarette companies, at least here in the state of Colorado, they started the Colorado Quit line and this and that. I hate to break it to you. They don't want us to quit. They don't want us to quit smoking. And if we do, I guess that's why they created those fucking stupid nicotine pouches, is just in case people do quit smoking, they have something else. They want us to ingest nicotine. They want us to pay those sin taxes because it's worth billions and billions of dollars to them. Sorry.
They don't have sin taxes on the patches, do they? Just kidding.
Oh, yeah. So, like, I know that one of the counties here in Colorado is they're looking at the cost benefit analysis and what it would do for the county and everything else, but they are proposing an additional tax to the state and federal on anything tobacco product or otherwise that is flavored. So that definitely includes those nicotine patches because, they have citrus and peppermint and mango and berry and
I didn't know that market is diversified.
apple and all sorts of gross fucking flavors. And again, I would say let your fucking balls drop and smoke a cigarette or just don't do anything. But whatever.
Life on the Short Bus Debate Club has a lot to do with the balls dropping. In case you hadn't gathered that. I was looking through some of the references at the end of this on the Wikipedia, and there was a suggestion in 2017 through an Arizona. It was on a site called ArizonaFamily.com. I try to pull it up. It blocks it, so it doesn't. I'm not sure what the deal is with that, but it says bill would block porn on new phones and computers unless consumers pay a tax. Yeah, I mean that's a straight up like revenue stream position.
And that might be a straight up fucking religion type thing too. No, I guess it can't be both straight up. But I mean that sounds more religious than money to me on any new phone and what else?
Computers, yeah, new phones and computers unless consumers pay.
Fuck them. Regardless of whether it's religious or not, it's fascist.
But I mean, the trajectory of these dispositions is all. I mean, the weed stuff. I mean, that was all. And I mean, and because they knew that the people that wanted to smoke weed were pretty much going to do and give whatever they could to move from, which is essentially extortion anyway. But
well, back in the 90s, when we were paying a couple bucks for a pack of smokes, and that was when I was still smoking weed.
It was $1.25 at that one on the corner of Littleton Boulevard and what was that?
Broadway. Yeah. But when I was in school, I actually wrote a paper about the benefits of legalizing marijuana and the tax rate, because at that point, and that was way back in the fucking 90s, then a pack of cigarettes cost about 25 cents to manufacture. So, you would have been close to that with marijuana. And just having a pack of cigarettes, which is a total of 20, I know that me and my friends wouldn't have had a hard time paying $40 for a pack of joints that were as big as cigarettes. So even then, they would have made millions and millions of dollars on taxes. And, we fast forward to 2018 or whatever the hell it was, and we did make millions and millions of dollars in the first quarter. But I don't like the term sin tax when I'm talking about something that I want to legalize, but it is that. I mean, why not legalize all drugs and put a sin tax on it? I'd rather sin tax drugs than Oreos or soda.
I know that I just hate that term. I hate the religious overtones on it. I found this other interesting one where in Cleveland they were using their sin tax on alcohol and tobacco to pay for their stadium.
Yeah.
You want to talk about some fucked up shit?
Well,
I mean, what's this Deshaun Watson? You know, I mean, there's irony. You know, I mean, that guy has been accused of that is the current starting. Well, he won't be starting for Cleveland this year because he's suspended. Well, he might end up coming back at some point in time, but he's been accused of he go and do the massages and try to get girls to give him a little
rub and tug.
Yeah, yeah. And he's been accused of sexual harassment or all these various different things in so many different instances. And instead of, I mean, I don't love the term sin, but what he's doing is fucking fucked up compared to these other things that we're talking about right here.
I don't know if they could call it a fucked up. I mean, it is a fucked up tax, but I don't think they could say we are going to levy a fucked up tax.
That would be kind of a funny world, though, and I don't think that would be an idiocracy world. That would be an honest world.
Well, it's pretty close to where we are.
Well, yeah. I mean, come on, dude. Gatorade. It helps us to grow our plants, for Christ's sake. But I think it's odd that in Cleveland, you have a guy who's going to be the quarterback who does all these things that are super questionable, but you levy this thing over people who do regular things on a daily basis, and something that really is truly, sinful or problematic. So at the very least, problematic socially in a social context is he gets suspended for 6 fucking games.
Well, so really, I mean, if you think about Western religion, and I don't want to get too deep into theology, but if you do any of those things with too much enjoyment, then it's considered a sin, dude. Do you know what I mean? So if you're sitting there, and I know that some municipalities have, done the soda tax or a tax on food because of the health issues that are going to come up with obesity down the road, supposedly. If you enjoy Oreos too much or a Coke or whatever, you're putting that above God and you're a sinner.
I get that. I get the concept of enjoyment in a relation that it's because I grew up Mormon, right? Since we're just swinging out right now.
Did you really?
I really did. I
didn't
never
know
knew that before. But Mormons, they have to wear the special underwear, and you know why they have to wear the special underwear, right? Because you're not allowed to enjoy sex. It's a sin to enjoy sex. So yes, I get the enjoyment concept. That's why I had to not be a Mormon anymore, because I couldn't wear the special underwear. I had to enjoy sex. What the fuck's somebody supposed to do, right? But having said that, taxes in relation to this it's just so obnoxious. It's just, again, like a thin veil to where you're justifying extracting more value from people that are a lower, generally, because most people that buy sodas are, you go into a 7-Eleven, you do a demographic study of the people that are coming in and buying sodas. It's going to be, 80-90%. They're not going to be, you don't have anybody coming in a Rolls Royce or a Bentley, buying a soda.
Well, and that was an argument that a lot of people have made, is that the sin taxes on food and beverages are affecting the poor more than any other group. And I mean, let's be honest, they fuck the poor more than any other group. And a lot of that is probably because the poor are the largest group. So it's easy to fuck them, right? But it doesn't matter really who it's affecting. And I think the problem that I have with it more than anything else is, again, this idea that they're doing it to help us.
Yeah, there's a lot of that paternalism and all of these things.
And, you know, if that was the case, then when they made all of this additional money off of taxing cigarettes, why didn't they do something to stop the sale of cigarettes? Oh, I know why. Because they need that fucking revenue stream.
Yeah, it's just a framing thing. They really, yes. I mean, your original point, of course, like it is just a framing thing.
You know, alcohol, more people die from alcohol related deaths than marijuana has ever killed anybody. And I'm fairly fucking certain, I can look at the CDC real quick, but I'm fairly certain that alcohol has killed more people than narcotics. And alcohol is legal, narcotics are not.
Yeah, pretty good revenue stream. Good sort of Malthusian population control space too.
Yeah, so I mean, well, and don't get me wrong, I'm all for culling the herd, but
Not sure how many times you should probably say that.
Yeah.
I don't really mean for you not to say that. You can say cull the herd all you want.
Thanks for not censoring me. I
I'm
appreciate
here
that.
for you.
Yeah, so I mean, how much money do they have to take from us to protect us from ourselves?
Well, like you said, it's not even about that in the first place. You create an argument that people subscribe to that allows them to, you know, it's and what they'll accept, you know. If you put, so you said 1.5 cents, you know, if you put like a 7 cent per ounce, you know, to where a person was literally coming in and paying, you know, $3 more for whatever, you know, then you just have to you have to find that it's just like inflation, you know. I mean, it's odd to think that the gas companies push the prices up so high in this moment because we couldn't withstand. We just financially we cannot withstand $5 a gallon for gas. If you're gonna push it up, you have to push it up a level that keeps us under the thumb, but allows us to continue to
make it to work.
Yeah, and to push that money back in the directions that it's going in. It's no different than the soda at that point in time.
No, but that's why they backed it back down, because they backed it down, but not low enough to where it was actually where it was, but they backed it back down so that now it's an acceptable rate.
Yeah, that's what I said. Because yeah, I mean that's so they overshoot because they can get away with it for a certain amount of time. You know?
Right. But that's the thing, is that so I'm asking when the dam breaks. Mm-hmm. When do people actually realize they're not protecting us and they're just taxing us because they want to build a new administration building? They want to give a raise. They want to get a new city manager, a new county sheriff. They need new guns and a new fucking SWAT division. You know, I mean, what is it? Where does the dam break where people say, you know what? Fuck you. I'm not paying for you to protect me. I don't need your protection. I'm an adult. Or fuck you. I don't need your protection. I'm 16. I can buy a fucking Mountain Dew if I want. Do you know what I mean? Pisses me off. I'm pissed. And I'm looking here at this fucking mortality in the United States 2020 on the CDC website. I've got to pull the table up, but I know accidents are usually in the top 10. But you will be glad to know that the life expectancy is 77 years old, which is too long, which is why we need to cull the
Sorry, it's
herd.
going down for the first time in history, right now, for the last couple of years. I know you love, while you're looking for that, you love the sort of teleology of the moment of like everybody coming together and saying, I'm done. I'm through. It's finished.
I know it's not going to happen.
Well, I'm not even trying to say it like that. I think we see like one of the themes that we sort of are dealing with throughout the various shows is that these various different patterns that divert resources away from people that might want to imagine a different world, so that they don't have the capability of doing that. I mean, it happens through so many different, syntax, uh, militarized police, making political activity very complicated and difficult. I mean, it's just like syntax is just one of 8 million different blockers that make it.
Yeah, I mean, you are absolutely correct. And I know that I keep saying, what's it going to take? What's going to happen? Whatever. It's just, I get so frustrated because, again, we talked about the Constitution and the Bill of Rights to some degree during this episode. There was supposed to be taxation without representation. And I don't know.
Not supposed to be taxation without representation.
That's right. Yeah. So where along the line did that end where they could just say, fuck it, this tax on this pack of smokes, because we're trying to protect you, is $2. That's the federal government saying that. And then the state government says, you know what? We're going to protect you too. So the tax is another $2. And then the county says, we're going to protect you too. So I've got the county protecting me, the state, and the federal government. I feel so fucking safe. Oh, God, it's just like a warm embrace.
Of course. So we have the infinite regress problem from the federal to the state to the local, and then all of these other different strategical positions. All of these other different strategic positions that just make it. And I'm glad you feel the warm embrace.
Yeah, I do. And so that's the county. If the city jumps in too and decides to assess a tax,
then the warm embrace is even
it's greater. I am one of the luckiest fucking people ever because of all of these organizations protecting
I wonder
me.
People, if they saw the look on your face.
Well, I'm hoping they can pick up on the sarcasm. Usually I can deliver sarcasm verbally, but for some reason via text, nobody picks up on it. Yeah, so I mean, I would love to hear from any of you regarding this tax and what you think. And I'm not ending the show. I just would encourage you to call or tweet or whatever and tell me what you think. Maybe you're a doctor and you agree with the tax because whatever local government you live in has tapped you on the shoulder and said, let's start a program for obese kids, or, let's help out these people that have COPD or whatever the case is. Or maybe you live in one of these places and just eating ends up costing you an extra $1,000 a year because you want to buy what they consider sin. So call the number or hit us on Twitter, and I'll find the number here.
720-334.
Roll,
bitches.
Because I am really curious. I know I sound like an asshole, and for the most part I am, but it's not just to be an asshole.
Well, it's not like, look, we all know that people die from lung cancer when they smoke cigarettes, right? I'm the nicotine thing. I do have a big problem with. Like, I don't understand, and maybe I just need to look. I mean, I get the idea that it's addictive, but there are certain things that talk about how the consumption of nicotine actually stimulates certain brain activities. So that I know it's a crazy thing that I'm saying right now, but there are moments when nicotine's actually good for the mind, right? And that is not a controversial statement. That is actually something that can be backed up. We understand that when people overdrink, that they get cirrhosis of the liver. We understand that when people overeat, that there are heart disease, various different things that come out of that. And maybe for I'm not gonna, because I know Brian, just like the paternalism like drives him nuts all the time. It would be easier for me to accept the bullshit arguments of something like a sin tax if these institutions were functioning in a more transparent way, in a way that demonstrated that they were actually trying to do something to help positive outcomes in relation to these things. But there's nothing right now. There are, we're going to go research this. We got this new great, like you said, if it's a doctor that is working with somebody who's they're having lung problems, and maybe there is a really good program that they've been a part of, like maybe you would help to assuage some of our cynicism. But when it keeps when it becomes a pattern and it keeps like being utilized as a way to draw more out, and we don't see an outcome that's actually benefiting, like that's showing like a good return on what it is that, because I mean, if you live in this world, like if you're taking the tax, that's an investment that you're supposed to be putting into helping to deal with the problem that you're taxing on at that point. And if like in capitalism, when you have investors expect profits. This is us asking for a certain outcome with regards to a tax position is really in practice no different than an expectation that an investor should be able to have in relation to their investments. So help me understand.
Well, and you just mentioned transparency, and I think that there's an issue with transparency there's a large problem with it, but most counties and cities, states, you can actually pull their budgets and look at them and see where money went. The problem that I have when you continually ask for more money, regardless of whether it's a sin tax or it's a tax on your house, it's a mill levy, whether it's sales tax or whatever. If you keep asking for money, learn how to spend it. One of the reasons I have such a hard time with budgets is because, and I'm not going to talk too much about this, but I want this to be perfectly clear. Don't ask me for more money when you don't know how to manage the money that you have. For instance, you have a group, whatever the group is. It's the people that remove snow in the winter, or it's the ones that lay asphalt in the summer. It's the one that mows the parks. You give them money. If they are good with their money and don't spend it all, then the following year you give them less. So all of these groups within the state or county organization fight to spend all of their money by the end of the fiscal or calendar year, whatever you're on, so that next year you don't take money away, and that following year you give them more. That's fucking problematic. That is the stupidest system I have ever heard of. So basically, you are getting more money from me to give more money to them, even though they could have managed their budget and not spent as much.
And not been punished for it in the long run.
Right. So don't ask me for more money, syntax or otherwise, if you don't know how to manage what you've already got. And I could go into budgeting and talk about that shit a whole lot more. I'm not going to. But I just, again, there's too much of this where they're justifying it for our protection, and there's no protection to be had.
I mean, I got to go off on the tangent in relation to that just a little bit too, only because fiscal year concepts in relation to budgets when you're talking about things like this. Because I mean, ultimately, if you're tax systems, money coming in, what's the process? How does it go through? How does it get doled out? Who does it go to? Accountability, blah 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 blah. When you create a system where you cannot allow for an institution to have a surplus and to hold on to that surplus, because you can't, I mean, from one year to the next, there are more ways to measure time than an annum. You cannot just think in terms of the context of a fiscal year. Like this is obnoxious. It's ridiculous. I remember when I was going to Metro and we did all of our Beyond Chicanismo stuff. It's exactly what you said. We would have, so there'd be like Metro would have a certain amount of funding that they would have available to them to bring speakers in every year. And I remember it was 2000-ish or something like that. And the guy that ran Metro Student Activities, because we would bring in people so much when we were doing the Beyond Chicanismo stuff, he's like, we got like $30,000 extra that we need to, and if we don't use it, then we're not, exactly what Brian said, we're not going to get it next year. So we have to run out. So it was kind of a cool thing. It put me in a position of, he said, we're all sitting there, he says, have any ideas? And I said, oh yeah, I have a professor friend who used to make time with David Barsamian, and he's good friends with Noam Chomsky. Maybe we can work this out, right? So it was cool. We brought Noam Chomsky to school, but the logic that drove that was, we have to use this or we're not going to have it next year. And
Yeah.
This is just like, why can't we? I mean, and I know part of that is rooted in this assumption that if you leave money in an account, then you think somebody's going to steal it. Like, at some point, we have to find a way back to where we start having a more honest,
Something that's fucking logical.
well, and a system that trusts itself. And of course, like me saying this is ironic as shit, because we are the most cynical people that you're ever going to meet. Everything we're talking about is in relation to syntax is about skepticism with regards to the way this money is being rhetorically being framed and then brought in and used for. But having said that, we accept that these things on some level, like if you're going to have a system, you have things like tax, you have government, you have, but you need to have a government that is transparent, a government that allows to where we're also cynical right now. And that's the whole system is bred on cynicism. I mean, if you think about that from a Kantian perspective, in terms of like the way that he talks about universalizing, ethical positions, like if your assumption is that everybody is going to try to steal, that system's not reproducible. We have to find our way back to where we don't think about things in terms of this super cynical space.
Well, and it's really bad. It's not just, when I say these things, I'm not, and I don't want to, say that your story wasn't valuable, but generally speaking, I'm not talking about just $30,000, because that was just $30,000 at this one school with this one little group, right? So being in sales, there are certain government organizations that are on a fiscal year, and I fucking loved it at the end of June or just June in general, because my phone would light up and these organizations would say, well, I don't really care what you got, just sell it to me because I got to get it out by the end of this month. But just with budgets, and we're talking about millions and millions of dollars, that as a whole. But there was a school district, and I was selling IT, which nowadays includes phone systems in a lot of cases. And I was talking to this school, and then they said, I don't know if you've read the paper, but we're in this budget crisis, and we're thinking about laying off all of these teachers, and the special ed group is going to go away, and all of this shit is going to happen. So I don't think we're going to be able to do anything. I said, okay. So I knew that these guys were having financial difficulties and about to lay off teachers and everything else. 2 weeks later, there was an ad in the paper that they went with Cisco and spent $6 million on a new phone system. So that's another problem with budgets. It's not just transparency and spend what it is that you've got or you don't get it next time. It's that this organization was going to lay a bunch of fucking people off, but they still had money for a $6 million phone system. If you've got $6 million for phones, pay your fucking teachers, stupid, and help the special ed group or whatever the case is.
Or whatever it is that you're downplaying the importance of, because it's the money that's coming to you is not allotted to the specific area you're allowed to allot it to. Because you don't have the ability to control your budgets. When the money comes to you from certain areas inside of state, federal, when it comes to you, it might be only for building restoration or,
Right. And back when we were in high school, they didn't have money for new books, but they had new money for this big fucking fancy entrance, that was just the facade of the school. So again, learn to budget your money and realize that if you give the maintenance guys $60 and you give the teachers $60 and the maintenance guys don't use their $60, you can take it and give it to the teachers without any punitive attacks on either group. Next year, you can still give them $60 and $60.
But, that's not a choice.
But that's what I'm saying, is that from a financial perspective, it's doable.
Yeah, no, we have to, but again, this is where, this cynicism, you have this paternalistic position on top that's saying institutions, we're going to give you this X amount of dollars for that, Y amount of dollars for that, Z amount of dollars for that, and you're not allowed to. And look, I get why people are cynical, but if you start by being present, society, citizens, which I'm not even sure we even have in this country anymore. You have to be present, and if you're going to be present, is not just
being
voting. There. Yeah, you gotta be interested. You gotta be talking about it. You gotta be thinking about it. You gotta be struggling with the system itself. You gotta be fighting with it. So
well, and paying attention to whatever's going on. If you're gonna have your face in your fucking phone all day to where you almost run off the road, or you can't walk around a grocery store without running into somebody, look at something besides TikTok every once in a while. Like I said, you can pull a budget. So pull a budget and look at the numbers and see what you got. And then you'll kind of understand more why they're trying to tax us for sin and, where the money might be going. Because it's not full transparency, but it is to some degree. That's pretty much all I have to say. Well, and I've got the TikTok thing. I think I've done 3 videos now to, help market this podcast. I know that there are millions and millions of people on it and millions of people watching it, but that's just the new opiate for the masses. And that's another topic altogether. But yeah, syntax is just fucked up and wrong. And that's pretty much all I've got to say. I know we're cutting it way short this time if we end it right now. But I don't know if I've got anything else to say about syntax without diving into budgets really deep, and that would be a fucking yawn fest.
Yeah. I mean, but no matter what.
All right, fuck it. Let's wrap it up then. I'm Brian Courtney. Thanks for joining us on Short Bus Debate Club.
I'm Darren Jolly.
We will see you soon.
720-234.
Roll.
Later.
Bye.